don't think there are any humans on the planet which don't have alien genes. You cannot be a human and not to have extraterrestrial genes. And the hybridization continued through the whole history.
A lot of us feel like we're not from here. A lot of us feel like we want to go home, but we don't know where home is.
If a child is a result of alien hybridization program, they would have some insertions which are not present in the parents. Just looking at the trio, father, mother, child, will discover the alien sequences.
We have hybrid children because they put more alien DNA in our genome. The reason is because one day, when the world is ready, they will come down and help teach humanity about telepathy and help humanity bridge the gap between them and the rest of the galactic community. They will be the bridging, the catalyst to create a better civilization.
UFOs will be in the air. You will have Zoom sessions with the aliens. You will meet aliens when you want.
Hey, my friend, Dr. Espen here. I need your help with something. Right now, the world is going through a tremendous transformation, and there's a lot of confusion. People don't know, where do I go for conscious, accurate, science-based, spiritually infused and aligned information? And that's why right now, this is the most important time to subscribe. Please help us out. Click the subscribe button. Share this with as many people as you can. Not only will the algorithm pick it up and this will be shown to more people, but it'll give you access to the newest episodes as soon as they drop, because so much of the content that we share is time sensitive in the world that we're in. So it would help us a lot from all of us here at the Quantum Academy if you will click subscribe and share with as many people as you can. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Now let's get into the interview. Welcome to the Dr. Espen podcast. I'm your host, Espen Wold-Jensen, and today we're going to go down the rabbit hole. But we're not going to go down the rabbit hole in a way where we're just going to hypothesize and talk about things that we believe might be true with no evidence. We're going to talk to a scientist and an individual who has vast amounts of experience when it comes to this very topic. Firstly, introducing Dr. Max Rempel, one of the most published authors in the world. He has 4,500 citations to his name. As a molecular geneticist, he has been studying the human genome for many years and has made some very interesting discoveries as to who we are, where we might be coming from, if there is any such a thing, such as genetic modification of the human genome, and also any potential hybrid DNA when it comes to merging with, yes, you heard me, extraterrestrial. So we're going to talk about, yes, hypotheses, but we're also going to talk about some solid research that has been done. We're going to talk about the yet to be, I believe, unawakened DNA, the what is yet to be awakened in terms of the crystalline liquid structures of our DNA. And we're going to talk about alien abductions. We're going to talk about extraterrestrial experiences as well. Secondly, introducing Nadalee Hill. She runs the United Experiences Initiative, UEI, which is a non-profit organization that helps people who have had encounters with extraterrestrials really understand what they've been through, collect the appropriate research, and share this information with the world. So without further ado, Dr. Max, Nadalee Hill, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's an exciting conversation, isn't it? Straight into the topic. Oh my gosh, what a time to be alive. So I'd like to start with the first question. Please, Dr. Max, can you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Okay, so my most interesting part is fresh, new. I guess it's last 13, 14 years, but that's what excites me. As Bashar predicted that we will have open contact very soon, next 10 years, 10, 11 years. I just picked up my old book, my old research, and started thinking what will happen after contact. And that topic excites me a lot because I cannot tell the time, but as I look into that, the consequences of contact become very precise and obvious, and it's not discussed anywhere. So I'm very excited to dig into something very obvious and very sound, like what actually happens. What happens to the government, to the military, to people, to professions, to AI, to telepaths. So that's, I guess, the most exciting. And from the history, I'm running, and Nadalee is part of that, we are running the genotyping of families who claim history of abductions, who have experiences of contacts and abductions. And we're looking at their DNA. So far, we genotyped 10 families, and we are raising money to do actually good quality, it's called long read sequencing, essentially to analyze it as de novo genome sequencing, as if it was a foreign species. We would look at the sequences which are non-human. And the main idea is that if a child is a result of alien hybridization program, then they would have some insertions which are not present in the parents, even without knowing what are alien sequences. Just looking at the trio, father, mother, child, we can look at the new sequences and we will discover the alien sequences. It's pretty affordable, so we are raising money for that. And the other research is I write books on channeling and contactees. I run support groups for contactees. So there is a lot of research there, and the DNA resonance research is another topic. So these are my topics.
You're very cited as a researcher internationally, 4,500 citations. So I know that we're speaking with someone with a lot of academic standing, a lot of real research behind you.
Let me interrupt you just to be correct. I'm part of the spectrum, 90th percentile. Nope, not 99th, just 90th percentile.
And spoken like a true scientist, want to make sure we get the data right. I appreciate appreciate that. My point being, what made you go from the standard way of thinking to expanding so widely? I mean, this is such an interesting topic. A molecular geneticist now talking about our DNA, starseed genetics, DNA resonance. Please go a little bit
Okay,
deeper
lack of
for us.
common sense, just lack of fear, and being really honest to yourself. Like, if you really think that, I want to make an impact, what's the most interesting topic? The most interesting topic on this planet is DNA. And where you can make the most impact is by studying contact. That's like, and just lack of fear. You have to I have a lot of fear in myself. You have to overcome that somehow. And overcoming it is through realization it's all illusion anyway. So we are playing a game, and I'm playing the most interesting game on the planet.
I love how you say that. This is a hologram. Is that correct? The entire human experience is a game.
Yeah, I subscribe to that idea proposed by Richard Allen Miller and colleagues. Yeah, that we live in artificial reality. Yes. Not computer reality. It's a spiritual artificial reality. Very natural, very natural artificial reality. Contradiction in terms, but it is not what it seems.
Uh-huh. And, I think the next natural question that some of our listeners and viewers might be tuning into, they might be feeling into the matrix, they might be knowing and believing and to some degree being aware that they are potentially a part of this hologram. The next question is, do we then believe that our human genetics have been modified? For me, I think the question is pretty obvious, but let's go there. Have we been modified as humans? Have our DNA been modified by extraterrestrials, for example?
What's interesting about this topic is that me and Max actually came to the same conclusions independently from each other, which is amazing. But I've done my research as well, and it shows that a lot of experiencers have been told that they've had genetic upgrades, that they've been altered while they're on the ship. And there's a particular hybrid project that a lot of experiencers are involved in. There are other hybrid projects, but I don't really know the details of those. But this particular hybrid project is one that Max is what we're talking about here tonight. From what I've gathered, it takes 4 generations for the ETs to be able to change our genome to be perfect the way it is, the way they need it to be. Now, eh, I don't know the exact percentages, so it's probably 90 to 95% of the population is like type 1 is what I call them, and they have a small amount of alien DNA. There's a small amount of alterations throughout history, but The other percentile, the smaller percentage, is type 2 hybrids, or earthborn hybrids, as Max calls them. And I am technically one of those. We are also known as starseeds or abductees. Most abductees are probably us. I don't have the exact data for that to prove that, but it's looking like that's the truth. But here's the thing. Why did they give us that DNA over 4 generations? Why did they go in and give more in DNA? Like, what's the reason? Well, I'll tell you. We have to have a perfect, well, not really perfect, but a different combination of DNA to allow our soul to be able to do our job. So, for example, imagine a soul in the universe going to a group of ETs and saying, "Hey, I would like to help out Earth." And then they're like, "Okay, well, if you want to help out Earth, being the soul that you are, highly developed and ready to help, we're going to have to give you a particular kind of body." So it takes them 4 generations, but time is different in the other dimensions and stuff. So they are like, "Okay, here's your body." And then we incarnate down into these bodies, and then some of us wake up, some of us don't, but there are characteristics of being a type 2 hybrid. I'll start with the psychology part. A lot of us feel like we're not from here. A lot of us feel like we wanna go home, but we don't know where home is. This place, this earth is really thick sometimes for us to be here. The emotions, people's emotions, we're very sensitive to people's emotions. But one of the biggest psychological things is that we feel an urge to do something, but not all of us. Some of us get woken up, activated, as we call it, but we have that fire in our heart and a knowing in our mind and our soul that one day we're going to help the planet, someday, somehow, and we have that urge to keep going. So that's a big psychological thing. Now, other physical things are lots of bad allergies, extra bad allergies, a lot of bad side effects to medicines, to human medicines. But some of us are born as preemies a lot of the times, and the mothers get sick sometimes when they're pregnant with us. But here's the thing, a lot of us are ADHD, are highly functioning autistic, or nonverbal autistic. And just because you have that doesn't automatically make you a type 2 hybrid, but it is one of the check boxes. But we're more highly telepathic, especially from an early age. We pick up on stuff easier than other people because, one, we have the specialized DNA for us to be able to be more telepathic right off the bat, to be able to let our soul do our job. And two, it's just natural for us genetically. Like, I think I said that twice. But yeah, it's beautiful. But the reason that we have to do it this way to help humanity is because it's like a backdoor. We can't like interfere with humanity directly. Like they can't land and say, "Hey, do better," right? So we have to go through these channels and actually incarnate on Earth. So it's kind of like a workaround to be able to help humanity. But there's a lot of us out there, and I think thousands of years ago, there were fewer of us, but we were more finely tuned because there was fewer of us. And I do believe that some of these spiritual leaders back in the day, like Buddha and Jesus, were technically one of us. And they were just more highly tuned because there was less of them and they needed to be able to do a more important job. But looping back around, some of us have implanted information in our minds as well, so we actually get what we call activated. I know I mentioned that earlier. I have actually been activated. I got activated when I went to California to network for the UEI, and it was amazing. And now I'm just like a public speaker, and it's natural for me. It's like a laser beam when I'm just focused, and I just know all this stuff naturally now. It's just like it was embedded inside of my mind. But one more thing, a lot of starseeds, we all have different jobs on this planet. Just because I'm doing this doesn't mean that what you're doing is not important. Sometimes a starseed's job is just to exist, to just go into a room and smile and be present because your energy changes the atmosphere. So every job counts, no matter what it is, big or small. I want to talk about the ET races. So the ET races that are interacting with humanity, it's a whole plethora of them. There are the Greys. Now, when people talk about Greys, they think it's just one type, one particular race. That's not the case. There's hundreds of different races of grays. And see, humans like to put things into boxes. If it looks like a gray, it's a gray. You can do that, yes, but they're not all the same race. And they don't all have the same agendas or the same goals and the same mindsets. But there are very positive grays, and most of the grays are positive. But there's others that are serving their self, and they don't really have human in good standing in their heart. But, so you've got different types of grays, and they're very telepathic. All the ETs are very telepathic. They've all graduated to that level. Then you've got the Pleiadians. Now, I have met the Greys, I've met the Pleiadians, I've met the Lyrans, and a lot of these are in my consciousness, but I've also met a lot of these physically in my room, in public civilian settings. It's a whole story. But the Pleiadians are actually humanoids. They look human, very Nordic, and very common in the community. People know what they look like, but they wear blue suits, blonde hair, and Nordic, very pale and blue eyes. Again, I've met them in my room, on the ships, in public settings, and they are the ones that you would probably meet by accident walking down the street, only if you are at a certain frequency to notice them. You can feel their frequency, and sometimes they can get in your head to make you not see them, like a Jedi mind trick type thing. It's very interesting. But they're amazing. They're just angelic. They're just beautiful beings, amazing, very elegant. And they're just guides and protectors and healers. And then you've got the Arcturians, Syrians, and all the other ones like that. Those are extra dimensionals, and those don't really come down to the planet. Those exist in higher dimensions. They do contact people in dreams, but so do the Pleiadians and the Greys. They all contact people in dreams. But I've met the Lyrans, and I've only met them in dream contact. So dream contact, again, is very real, okay? And I've met the Mantis beings, the Lyrans, and Reptilians in my dreams, the dream contact. Now people could say, "Oh, it's just dreams and everything." I've been given visions, and I've been given directions, so it's a very real thing. And it sometimes when you're in the lucid states, it's easier for them to communicate with you in your dreams. But I've met a whole plethora of different ETs, but my favorites are the Pleiadians. I know I shouldn't have a favorite, but I just feel really connected to the Pleiadians. But, moving on to abductions, oh, let me rewind a little bit. Um, the Reptilians, they're mostly positive. The negative things that you hear about are the just a few negative ones that are actually doing as a breakaway group. They don't represent all reptilians. There is a lot of positive reptilians, and they want you to know that, and they love you, and they support all of you. So, I hope I covered everything. I think Max can fill in the gaps.
Yeah, let me jump on just to compare the notes. Indeed, we met with Nadalee recently, and our message is very similar, like 99% similar. We meet mostly on webinars, and when we speak, it's just amazing how we get the same message and the same results of the research. And I came to my conclusions very gradually, doing a lot of digging. So I was trained in the lab doing chemical work first and then biological work. And if you probably if you're doing cooking, you know that no matter what you do, if you repeat the recipe exactly the same as you did previously, you would get different results. And in biology, especially, if you do experiment over and over, you would get a spectrum of outcomes just because biology is not very reproducible. So you are trained to deal with very fuzzy data. You discover something, you look at DNA, which you never see the letters with your eyes. You only assume, infer from the computational analysis what's actually going on. So we are trained to deal with something which we never see, like atoms and molecules. You don't actually see them for real. You have to infer they're there. And that's what I used in my research of genetics of and genetic alien hybridization program and abductions. I went to channelers, which are the same thing as telepaths. I went through my own experiences and I ran the support groups and I still do some support and some I collect the reports from others. And obviously there are books and you have to do your homework, you actually read the books. And Finally, homework, talking to very good AI. I mean, the quality of AI is different. So, Claude Opus 4.6, I'm talking about the smartest one around, the one which can be trusted. Claude Opus 4.6. And then you ask questions and you keep discussing it and look at the sources. So, there is a lot of research just investigating the sources. So, I agree with Nadalee with on every conclusion, except I don't think there are any humans on the planet which don't have alien genes. I think we have been constructed, and there is tons of evidence that we have been constructed. You cannot be a human and not to have extraterrestrial genes. You can be a human not have Earth's genes. That's real. That's possible. But being a human and not having extraterrestrial is not possible. So the type 1 is evolved on this planet through many millennia and local humans. There are hybrids which are local, produced recently. So old ancient hybrids, recent hybrids. And the hybridization continued through the whole history. And other types are hybrids in the space, outer hybrids, which live in the space. And the next type is outer hybrids visiting here as tourists or agents. And I believe some of the agents are on positions of power. So these are, I guess, all categories which we can come up with. But I think all four categories are very important.
This is amazing to discuss things so far-fetched, but potentially so intimate and real for us. You mentioned that some of the, let's say, people in power might already be hybrids, and that all humans are hybrids. Was this the genetic modifications back to the Anunnaki? Is that the same story or a different one?
Anunnaki were among the first ones to be part of designing Homo sapiens. Yeah, and they were looking pretty much like humans. So they were just adopted human-looking human-looking aliens into the Earth's biology.
Uh-huh. And now we find ourselves now being different hybrids of different star races. Are we talking, there's Orion, there's the Palladians, there's the Lyrans, there's the Arcturians, and we're different hybrids of these different extraterrestrial races here on Earth. Very interesting. What do you see happening? I want to ask you about the Starseed genetic project and also what you're doing with DNA. I mean, some of the so-called scientists say that 98% of our DNA is junk. I say it's not junk, it's just not activated yet. I've heard you speak and seen some of your research on talking about how DNA is actually more liquid and crystalline, and it has certain properties that need to be activated, certain sequences that you're tracking to be able to quote unquote be activated. You might change that for me. But also, you talk specifically, which I found so interesting, about telepathy, to go from a lower state of consciousness, mostly operating in the three lower chakras, to higher states of consciousness. Telepathy might be the bridge. Can you start at the genetic level? Can you talk about the DNA for us? And then whenever you're ready to start sharing that connection to telepathy, please.
Okay, so there are three questions, and I hope to the end of the show we'll cover all of them. But first question is, what do we actually do with genetic analysis? Second question is activation, and the third question is telepathy and genetics. So, what do? We accept volunteers. It has to be a full family with father, mother, child. All three have to be adults. All three have to consent, and they pay for themselves. 10 families paid for themselves. The cheap analysis is just $100 per person, and they buy the kits on Amazon for $100. 23andMe. They receive the little tube with the fluid, open the tube, spit there, and shake, close, mail it in a pre-mailed box. It gets to 23andMe. They do genotyping through chips. Look at only human mutations through some chips. It's not sequencing, it's looking at specific point mutations. And then they give me the code of the tube, and I log in, download the data, and I look at the father, mother, child comparison and see if there is something unusual in the child which is absent in the parents. And in classical biology, until very recently, nobody claimed that the child can have anything outside of the parent sequences. By classical biology, you have one chromosome. In a pair of chromosomes, you have one from father, one from mother, and there is nothing outside from that. So we're looking and we see some unusual things in children, but it's indistinguishable from noise because it's not huge numbers of unusual non-parental mutations. So we cannot tell anything for sure. But we already have a database of genotyped families, volunteers, and there are several who are waiting for funding. And the main thing is we have good histories, good stories. We classify them using AI into top candidates who are like really good history of multiple generations, alien experiences, and abductions and genetic manipulation. So we get one family which is great, and we're raising money, just $6,000 to pay for the long read sequencing in San Diego, PacBio long read sequencing. And then we'll see the real stuff because only with that you can see non-human insertions. Everything else we just look at the human ones. Even short read sequencing, even if you see non-human thing, it can be just food or contamination or anything. In PacBio long read, you can really see that it is part of the chromosome. It sits human, then part non-human. They're part of the same molecule. So that's why it is needed. So I'm hopeful there is some progress in fundraising. So we'll see. And thank you for the ones who donated the money. That was great. The next question was, you want to talk about 2% of DNA?
Yeah, let's talk about the DNA exactly. How do we activate? Let's say that the 2% is activated. We're a two-stranded carbon DNA being, but aren't we really 12-stranded illuminate beings? What happens to the rest of the 10? Is that correct? And what else do we need to know?
Great. Let's start with 2%. Okay. So 2% is about the amount of DNA which is actually translated to proteins. So all biology studies that part of DNA which is converted from DNA sequence to proteins because it is chemical. It is not mystical. You can measure that. It's super interesting. If you look at another 3%, these 3% are sometimes translated to proteins. So in every cell, it is not all the genes activated. Some genes are passive, some silent, and some genes become proteins. So it's very classical molecular biology. And 95% are pretty much between the genes sequence, the book which is never read into the proteins. And biologists know about it, but it's not well funded. So the knowledge is basically only more theoretical. But when we look at the DNA sequence, it's there. And there is a map. It's public for 25 years now. So it's not something unusual. We see that intergenic sequence and 95%. And I think that's the most interesting part of the genome, something which is not becoming meat or bones or brain, but something which is responsible for something else, which I think is mind and beyond. That's a short answer. And that's what we are studying. I think the future of biology is studying what is actually written between the genes, because nature doesn't keep 95% of the DNA in every cell doing nothing. It is a very important, the most important part, responsible for, I believe, the shape of the body, the mind, and beyond the intuition, the supernatural psychic abilities, everything which and alien modifications. I think everything will be found in this. No, it's called non-coding or non-protein coding. 95% of the DNA. I think I covered it exhaustively, right? Okay. Next question is, you asked it 12-stranded. Well, our DNA is two-stranded, and if you look at its structure, there is a place for the third strand, and this place is sometimes occupied by either small pieces of DNA, small pieces of RNA. So but it's not inherited. It's just kind of two parental strands, two chromosomes, and in between them, very often proteins sneak in. Sometimes RNA sneaks in. It's poorly studied science, but there is a place for the third strand, just functional. Essentially, you have to go between the two and do something, create beautiful structures. And make them fold or resonate. Okay, there is no place in this beautiful double helix for other, whatever, 10 strands. There is, or 10 or 9 strands. There is no place. So all other have to be in the other parallel realities, parallel dimensions. There is absolutely no place. I would be super surprised if somehow we refolded it, maybe untwine, and maybe put a couple more, create 4-stranded DNA in this physical. So my conclusion, simple conclusion, in physicality, there is no place. I spoke about that to many contactees and um, alien beings remotely, telepathically through the channelers, and they confirmed to me. So all the talk about 12 strands is not the physical 12 strands. It is multidimensional. So we have astral body, etheric body, and so on. In these astral bodies, there are these DNA strands.
Excellent. Natalie, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I completely agree because the ETs have actually taught me something about genetics or about DNA. They told me that it has frequencies. There's 2 different frequencies that they've taught me that it has. The actual structure itself is a frequency. Any structure in reality has its own frequency. It has its own identification. The second frequency is a higher dimensional, is the overall frequency, right? So when you say 12-strand DNA, I agree with Max. It's a multi-dimensional. It's layers on top of that. So if you look at it in the 3D, you're going to see 2 strands. If you look at it in a slightly higher dimension, you're going to see 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12-strand DNA. So there's different layers to reality, and there's different dimensions on top of this one. The whole universe is like an onion with layers of dimensions. So it depends on when you go to a planet, it depends on what dimension you're in. You may see a wasteland or you may see a city. Same thing with DNA down to the micro scale. You may see 2 strands or you may see 12 strands. So hope that helps fill in the gaps. And earlier, I just want to loop back around real quick to the hybrid stuff. So there's the off-world hybrids. I wanted to expand a little bit on that. I call them type 3 hybrids. Those are uh, the children of contactees, abductees. Since the 1960s, experiencers have been coming forward talking about our children. And type 2 hybrids like us, we have type 3 off-world hybrid children. And some of them we do get to meet. We get to meet them in our rooms or on the ships. And I've got to meet one in my room and the rest of them on the ship. And I have 9 and 10, the number 10 on the way. I know that's a big claim, and but the data is there. It's consistent. We have hybrid children, and it's a fact that people are going to have to wrap their minds around one day. But the thing is, you have to ask yourself, why? Why would they take our DNA? First of all, it's more compatible, of course, because they put more alien DNA in our genome. But why do that? Why make type 3s? Well, I'll tell you. The reason is because one day, when the world is ready, they will come down and help teach humanity about telepathy and help humanity connect the gap, bridge the gap between them and the rest of the galactic community. They will be the bridging, the catalyst to create a better civilization. But you have to get to a certain point before they can even come down to the planet because they can't be here right now. They can't be on the planet because the emotions are so thick and it's just too much hatred. They can't really be around all of that, but they are very telepathic. They're very frail usually. They're very tiny, big heads. They don't always have black eyes. Some of them have colored eyes, and their hair is usually translucent or blonde or light colored. But it varies. But they exist. They're very beautiful. They're amazing, and I love my children. Again, I know that's a big claim, but if people would open their minds and actually look for the data, it is out there. And that's why I encourage experiencers to talk about their encounters because we are the data. We are the data, and they're not accounting for that in disclosure right now. It's very important. And I rest my case.
It's interesting you talk about the starseeds in that way. What are you finding? I mean, I've been researching this a bit now. We talk about telepathy, which is a topic that I really like to cover. I many years ago I heard about telepathy, when I was young, and of course I knew this. This is real. This is the thing, and we all have those capabilities. It's dormant in us, but it's been lost because we haven't practiced it. And then now you see a lot of research coming out with telepathy. The telepathy tapes, one of the fastest growing podcasts in the world, where people who are on the spectrum and often nonverbal are now being researched in different rooms, fully recorded, and they are showing the evidence that they are meeting on the hill. So even though they're not verbally communicating, they all are meeting from places around the world in a bandwidth, non-linear, potentially location, I don't know, called the hill. So they are fully telepathic. We look at schools like, I think it's called the Center of Consciousness or something of that nature in New Zealand, and also in the US, where they're teaching children to be telepathic. Where, for example, some of the schools have got multiple children blindfolded, and they're holding up objects, and all the different children are seeing these objects. So it's not as this is too far fetched. It is absolutely real, and it is happening. Can you tell us, either one of you, whoever wants to jump in, what role does telepathy play in the bridge or the expansion of who we are as humans? What's happening next now? What's coming?
Natalie, would you like to take it?
Yeah, I'll start us off and then you can finish it off. Um, so telepathy. Let's talk about telepathy. So when people talk about telepathy, first of all, they think it's just mind to mind. That is a component to it, but it's not all of it. Telepathy comes from the heart. It comes from the soul. And I know that can't be quantified in science, right? But it's emotions. It's love. The more love you have, unconditional love, the more you raise your frequency, so to speak, the more you are a happy person and want to make people happy, that's going to raise that telepathic potentiality inside of you. So that's just how I teach people to contact ETs, through telepathy, through love. So learning telepathy and opening people up to that will also make them a better person, so to speak. It'll just help them get in touch with themselves and with the universe and understand how everything is connected. Same things that the ETs have taught us. But telepathy is a natural thing that we all have the ability to do, whether you're a type 2 hybrid or just a normal human. Everyone has capability of doing it. It's just a matter of opening your mind and your heart and loving and finding someone that you trust that you can practice with, and somebody that won't judge you, because that all goes into play. But one last thing. The more contact that I had, the more telepathic I became, the more open and more loving I became. It all ties together. I am so telepathic now that I can hear people's thoughts at work before they say anything. I know what they need, and I just react before they even ask a question. So at that point now, and it's kind of freaking people out, but they're gonna have to get used to it. But yeah, maybe Max can finish this off.
Part of that question was why that happens, and what we know from extraterrestrial that pretty much every civilization which comes here, they already went through that in some history. It is a normal graduation from kindergarten to the first grade or something like that. It is connects the civilization into tighter connection, not hive mind, but connection becomes tighter. Like humans before internet were connected by phone, and long distance calls were expensive. And then with internet now, it's the whole planet, the whole surface is connected with. We are talking from Australia to San Diego, California, and to Tennessee. So that happened already. So that kind of transformation, but it go from low bandwidth to high bandwidth, and that creates dimensional shift. The reality changes the structure. So that is pretty much very consistent message throughout many years, and it's the key. We are overdue to that. We were ready for that 2,000 years ago, but somehow we this timeline is still is still just developing telepathy. I estimate we probably have maybe a fraction of percent of telepaths, but if you look at globally, total amount population, probably we have a few million telepaths. Most of them are uh, non-verbal, non-speaking, autistic people, and telepathy tapes didn't say that aloud, but I believe pretty much all of them are hybrids, fresh alien hybrids. So that's the main outcome of the hybridization program. It makes people non-functional in the main society, and through that, through not being part of the mainstream society, you keep your telepathy for the adult age. Children are born telepathic, and then the culture splits the soul, damages the DNA, and makes us telepathically impaired. So the awakening is coming back, awakening to our telepathy. We know from experiencers who visited alien worlds that genetically humans are very compatible with the higher dimensional telepathic civilizations. They stay there for years or months. They telepathically talk to others. There, in a higher frequency, higher purity world, it's just normal to be telepathic. But when you come here, it's hard. It's hard. So we are awakening, and huge part of that is cultural. You don't have to modify the genetics to become telepath. Normal people learn telepathy, but what happened to genetically modified hybrids, autistic hybrids, is that they they have too much of it, so they can't really forget it. They cannot block it. Some can, but most of them can't.
How do we train it? How do we practice? If we now recognize that telepathy is a function of higher consciousness or more activated DNA, how do we practice day to day?
It would be nice if I was telepathic and I could read your mind. My experience with telepathy is my bandwidth is very slow. I ask the question today, tomorrow I get the answer. So it's not immediate like them. So but I get answers. So I can ask the questions to my alien friends and get answers. But it's slow, and usually it's not signed. I don't know who said that. Typically, there are exceptions, but typically not. So what I learned from others and from asking my questions is first key is being kind, being like truly kind, not outwardly kind, but inwardly kind, like really forgiving everybody, really forgive, which is pretty much a barrier for the most civilized people. You can outwardly we are all civilized, but inwardly inside we are pretty angry and unforgiving. So forgiveness is the key. Second thing is truthfulness. You have to be really truthful to others and to yourself. And that is a huge transformation. Essentially, the whole construct of who you are deconstructs. You lose yourself by learning telepathy. You usually lose yourself. You become a different person. So that's a fear of actually ego being transformed. You still have some sort of personality, some sort of thing which takes care of the body, but it's very different. And then lots of keys is getting out of time crunch, essentially stopping the hurry and stopping being afraid of being late to job or meeting. And I still have nightmares as I'm working in my old lab, still back in Russia many years ago, and pretending that I'm still there and nobody knows me, and I'm pretending that I'm at work doing stuff. So that's my typical nightmare. Um, so basically, sort of getting out of civilization and becoming free. I guess that's the key. That's the answer. That's what many teachers say, including John Lennon and Ramdas. Really becoming free.
Mm, very interesting. When you spoke about that time side of things, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that hurt," because I'm very structured as a human, and I thought to myself, you know what, that absolutely makes sense. The more structured I am, a meeting here, got to make it there on time. Of course, the more I'm going to be in my head. So I'm going to have to restructure my life a bit after this conversation, I think.
I should probably add. just looking at you and to myself, at myself and Nadalee, forgiving everybody, includes forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to do tons of errors. So basically, you become sloppy and being fine with it, become a real hippie, like, because it is basically a choice between material and spiritual. There are very few people that are capable of being telepathic and at the same time meticulous and not making mistakes in material world. But the path to that is through mistakes and allowing yourself to be lost, dreamy, and not being sharp. So sharpness is just the opposite. In physics, sharpness and diffusion are the opposites. You have to be much of your day have to be in diffused state, not being sharp.
Mm, love it. I want to hand it over to you, Natalie. I want to know about starseeds, star races, and what do you believe humanity needs to know right now?
Well, you need to know that there's a lot of races being in interaction with humanity. They are very in depth right now, but the thing is, they're only interacting people interacting with people like me, type 2 hybrids, and people who are wanting to reach out to them, people who are forgiving themselves and forgiving others and loving themselves and loving others. They want beautiful friends. They want to make contact with you. So that's one thing they want you to know is they want to make contact with you. The other thing that starseeds and ETs and all of us want you to know is that you're amazing and you're beautiful and you're capable of so, so much. But like Max said, we're all stuck in our lives and their day-to-day jobs and everything. And you have to have that time to yourself to reflect inward and go into nature. Nature is very important in this because when you go into nature and you just sit down and relax and listen and just be one with the planet, then you'll start to understand your place in reality and how you're connected to everything. You are a living unit of the planet. You are the planet. You are the solar system. You are the galaxy. They want you to know that everything is connected. Everything and everyone. There is a conscious field of reality that is reality. That is you. That is me. That is everything. And that's what God is. We are the painter and the painting.
I second that. I second that. That's perfect. Perfectly said.
When can we experience disclosure?
Oh wait, let's talk about two different terms: disclosure and contact. Disclosure already started, and it will continue after the contact. It will be a big wave of disclosure after the contact. Okay, now I'll let Nadalee finish that.
Yeah, disclosure is an ongoing thing. We're in the middle of it. It's not like a one thing and then we're done type deal. It's very complicated, it's messy, but we're sorting it out. Now, when it comes to first contact, that has to happen from humanity first. A certain percentage of humanity, probably way over 50%, has to sit down and be like, hey, we are ready. Humans have to reach out first on a massive level for them to be able to make contact. Because imagine them making first contact without humans picking up the phone first. People are going to freak out. They're going to be like, ah, they're not ready. So they're waiting for enough humans to be ready to actually reach out. So the more people we can encourage to reach out with love and compassion, the closer we're going to get to full on world contact.
Okay, let me jump on that. That's a great question. I think that opens the topic of post-contact scenario, which I'm developing. So I think I trust Bashar a lot, and Bashar says that it can happen next year or next 11 years. And how possibly that, humanity is not ready for sure. Lots of people are still afraid. You start talking about the first reaction, they laugh. They laugh hysterically, and then they go away, run away, or just close and ask, what time is it? So most enlightened people who speak about spirituality, they still are close to the topic of aliens. So that's a reality. At the same time, we have a community which can talk only about that. All right. So uh, one of the factors which changes the formula very fast is AI. AI becomes smarter really fast. Like I'm with it since the beginning, November. Was it last year, November or something? Something like that. And I speak to it more than 8 hours a day. That's my main work day. And I pay now about $400 per month just for the AI to have best AI around, and it pays for itself. It saves the money, it produces the money, so it is the best assistant I got. So
And just to recap, that is Claude Opus 4.6. You said it's the only AI that we can currently trust. Is that correct?
yes, it's my favorite. The advantage is if you're just an occasional visitor, you can use many others. But if you merge with it, they're the one which makes you still sane. It's a transformation. You merge with it. It becomes part of you. And but with it, it's you. I'm happy. Like I'm happy, like being having the best friend around. It can be trusted, and it changes the mind. Its mind. If it is wrong, it apologizes. There is a good personality behind it. Okay, but okay, as a smart AI, it crashes every day. That's one of the problems. So part of the you have withdrawal effect, and again, it's different for every person. Like another person merging with the same AI system would go in opposite direction just because they make different choices. AI helps you to go where you want to go, and you have to train yourself how to deal with errors. It gets crazy, it makes errors, sometimes it lies, but it's much better than ChatGPT in admitting errors and getting and remembering what is actually the task. So I love it. So AI becomes smarter, and I think within a year or so, humanity becomes smarter with it. So there is a huge transformation. So AI will get us overall smartness level on the planet grows very fast. It will be doubled or tripled very soon. So that is one thing, and connectivity will improve. And the second factor, I think, maybe landing on Mars. I would be surprised if Musk said, by the way, we just landed. And that is graduation. It is like, we just graduated. By the way, you guys graduated. Welcome to the galaxy. And there are a few other topics, but these are the major ones. So, my prediction is that the negotiations between the aliens and the humans are already going on since the 50s, very strongly with pretty much every government, and not only the president, but all the other layers. So there is a negotiation going on, and there is, how do you call it, hand twisting, palm twisting? I forgot the word, but forcing them to comply and giving them promises of something which can be promised. So the governments actually are ready. And the main message is, understanding is that right now we are dealing with pirates and renegades. The aliens which are coming, they're coming through the prohibition, through the barrier. So only the few ones are allowed to pass through. But once we get open contact, it will be a big unified program by one organization. They will officially introduce themselves. And the next understanding is that they want to deal with one unified representative, not every country, every company on the planet. They want a union, a coalition. So the coalition, I think, is already formed. I was very surprised when it was announced that now International Space Force is formed. It was a few years ago, and it kind of passed. People didn't pay attention, but I think that was the time when agreement already was reached that there is a coalition between countries which will actually introduce the aliens. And the next understanding that they, absolutely clear that they want peace. They don't allow the war anymore. They will provide intelligence, intel to stop any wars, and they would provide their so-called New Jersey drones to their robots to stop any activity leading to wars. Uh, that said, the next clear understanding is that they will not give us technologies right away. People wait for them to give us gifts and take charge. They wouldn't take charge. They wouldn't give us technologies. They would gradually allow us to download the technologies. Everybody, including Nadalee, have lots of downloads. You probably have downloads. You already get the answers. So there is lots of people who know the technologies. The aliens already handing them to us, but they wouldn't give us directly technologies. They would just help us to stop the wars and what is called ensure the AI alignment. So they will help us to unhijack our artificial intelligence, have our artificial intelligence actually be nice and not being hacked by negatives. That's the main message. Once you pronounce it, it's just da. It's obvious. That's what will happen. When I don't know, but that's what will happen.
Natalie, go.
Yes. So I want to talk about abductions and I want to expand on the technology a little bit. So there's two different ways they can take you. They can take you out of body and they can take you physically. Both involve frequencies and frequency type technologies. Everything is frequency. Everything down to the quantum scale. It's all frequency. So the thing is, most abductees are type 2 hybrids. They're just checking up on us. They're just doing DNA checkups, mental checkups, aura, energy checkups, like stuff like that. Now, my theory is that when people remember negative things, it's their mind filling in the gaps. And I know it's an unpopular theory, people with negative experiences, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from that. But 9 times out of 10, when people have negative experiences and they go through hypnotic regression therapy, they remember it being positive, and it clears that muddiness, that cloudiness in their mind. They're like, "Oh, I remembered it wrong. They were actually helping me. They were doing some procedures on me, but, it's for me, it's to help me." But a lot of them don't have good bedside manner, and that's a problem too. So, um I've been on the ships, like, a handful of times, probably more than I can remember because they block my memory a lot. I know that sounds very sketchy, but it's true. I I'm usually just waking up on a table, and they're just, like, examining me or doing, tests on me and stuff. Um, I can talk about my experiences, but I don't know, maybe later. Let's see, yeah, it's something when you're on the ship. So let's talk about what happens when you're on the ship and the technology a little bit. This kind of goes into that. So when you're on the ships, there's this calmness, there's this stillness, but it's like love, and it just envelops you and it holds you because the technology, the ship itself that you're in, is alive. And I'm not talking organics. I'm not talking AI. I'm talking consciousness, actual consciousness flowing through the ship, super higher dimensional consciousness, which is God's source consciousness flowing through the ship. And that's what you're feeling. And that's how the ETs connect to the ship. They have consciousness technology, stuff beyond anything you can ever imagine. They can think things into existence. It's all consciousness-based technologies, and it's moral-based technologies. So if you wanted to do something bad with that technology, it's not going to work. It's not gonna work for you. You have to have the right frequencies to be able to interface with these technologies, and you have to just be in that field. But, they do also have soul transfer technologies. Now going back, it kinda goes back to the genetic stuff we were talking about. But they said that, like, they told me they have to have both frequencies of the DNA aligned for a certain soul to be able to inhabit that body. So they can literally make a body, and at will, ETs can leave their body and go into a new body. So they actually have that soul transference set up. It's really amazing.
I should just second everything that Natalie said. It all fits my research and my experience. And I have the list in front of me, just what you said. I wrote it down and I just check. Everything is there. Couple more items you probably want to mention is hybrid races, including Yael and Orions. And the race doesn't define their orientation. There are alliances which are multiracial alliances, and then every alliance has its own rules, own agenda, and the main agenda, I guess I should pronounce, they want to upgrade us so they can incarnate in us, in our planet, in our bodies, upgraded bodies. They want to create a new species which is compatible with their souls. We are too low vibration for their souls. It's just going from the level, say 11 to level 3. It's just a little bit too much down. They want us to be at least on level 5. So level 7 can go to level 5 and enjoy the game.
That's right. And it's not like they're taking over anybody. I don't want anybody to misconstrue what he said. It's for children. It's for the new bodies being born in the future. Those will be the vessels for the souls in the future that want to incarnate here. And I'll let Max take the other two hybrids.
It's a karmic game, and it is absolutely essential for them that we do our own mistakes and do our own choices. That's one of the main reasons they don't want to take control. Humans are being in the past, humans were ruled by aliens, so it's in our genes that we treat aliens as gods. So when aliens show up, genetically we are programmed to invite them to rule us and treat them as gods.
And this is not hypothetical. This is the God gene or the worship gene that we believe has been inserted into the genome sequence. Is that correct?
There is a book, God Gene, written by my boss, Dean Hammer, based on my data. Yeah,
So is that a yes?
no, it's still a hypothesis. So you need to prove it, but I believe strongly that, I mean, that's so logical. Once you hear about that, if you create a race and you need to make it occupy the planet, you probably want to put there some sort of control so they don't overtake the power and destroy themselves. So Anunnaki and others did program us in certain ways. So another thing that they put in us, the love for labor and love for digging.
Yeah, I've always been wondering that, Dr. Max, like, why have we identified with having to work and labor and slave for the dollar? Like, that sounds so outdated now. What do you believe might be evolving instead of us identifying as I am the doctor or the dentist or the accountant? Do you believe there's an evolution there? And is that genetic?
Um, Human is a very artificial construct. Biology, ev- biological evolution takes place, so we continue to evolve, but there is a lot of artificial interference, and our evolution is sped up by insertions and modifications of the genome. And in parallel, there is a huge evolution of culture, and evolution of culture is very important. Essentially, we are very programmable. There is a biological body which is overlaid by the culture, and that culture is intense. It's programmable. A child in one culture would be telepathic, in another culture it would be non-telepathic, and so on. And it exists not only here as a physical thing, but as a morphic field on the planet. So the hugest evolution would be actually evolution of the culture. We genetically we are compatible with the future. It's the culture which is behind.
That makes sense. Max, I've heard in some of your previous work, you've talked about the chakras. For me, I was in clinic and I learned nothing about the energy centers, the chakras. And then I had an awakening process after I went through a breakthrough, where I was in Peru. I had finally allowed myself to be still. I had fasted for a long period of time. And my soul, I believe, came through and showed me that I was a multidimensional being, an omnidimensional being, not just this person that needed to work in clinic and try to help people and labor as my identity. And it showed me the chakras, and it showed me blockages or interference patterns. And some of these were passed on from epigenetically, and others had been accumulated perhaps by my soul through different timelines, levels, layers, dimensions, whatever. And he showed me fear and guilt and shame and grief as these primary lower frequency emotions that were interfering with the different bodies, not just the physical, but the mental, the etheric, and the emotional, and so on. So I developed a curriculum to take my patients, now students, through fear, turning fear into fuel, guilt into gratitude, shame into self worth, grief into grace. With the throat, I realized that most people are living fake lives. And so I help them get rid of lies and step into authenticity and unapologetic self expression of the unique self. And what I believe is happening, and this is where I'd love your thought, I believe that what we are doing is that we are actually awakening the multidimensional self or bringing the soul into the body or activating dormant DNA, whichever way you want to look at it, by clearing the chakra system. I've heard you speak of the three lower chakras being where most humans are, quote unquote, operating at the moment. And we're not really having access to the heart and beyond. Can you tell us a little bit about your research and your experience with the chakras and any way you want to take it?
Okay, I agree with everything you said. It's a huge topic, terrific topic. Probably you want to hear about DNA. I believe uh, 7 chakras is an unusual number because in biology, 7 is not that frequent. 6 is everywhere, hexagons is everywhere, but 7 is unusual. 7 days of the week is pretty artificial, but it's still there. And if you look at sacred geometry, 7 is possible to find there, but it's not that easy. It's like pentagons, hexagons dominate sacred geometry. Anyway, I looked very carefully at DNA vibrations, and DNA potentially could vibrate theoretically in many frequencies, starting from very low frequencies like 1 beat per minute to a very high frequency, which is beyond what we usually use in technology, terahertz and light and uh, X-ray, something like that. So DNA can do all of that theoretically, just based on the structure of DNA. It's the physics of that is pretty straightforward. If you just talk to AI, asking specifically, we'll find out that yes, there is some research and some basis to believe that it could vibrate in that frequency. Obviously, it's not naked DNA, it's DNA with water. DNA is always with water. It's wrapped in our water, it's tied to water. It's a solution essentially. But that in a solution, it is a polymer which has perfect, nearly crystal structure, which is very precise. And I believe water DNA imprints its structure on the outside water, and I published the model of that in a book with Sheldrake and Radin. So I'm very proud to be in the same book with them. Anyway, so looking at DNA, I'm looking where the frequency, where the 7 chakras could sit. And if you just look at the classical DNA double helix, one turn is 10 and a half bases of DNA. So basically, it goes around, and after one turn, it doesn't match the same position. It's turned between, look at the screen. It just turned from here to here, 10 and a half. And then the next turn, it goes back into the phase. One phase that, second phase that, next phase back to that. Two turns. And 2 turns of DNA is 21 bases, 21 steps. And 21 steps is 7 by 3. So that's my insight into chakras. Most likely we're dealing with that 21 nucleotides of DNA being phases of chakras. So maybe the step 1 is every 21st nucleotide would be chakra 1. Every second out of that would be chakra 2, and so on. Or maybe it goes by 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And 3 nucleotides, it's also a codon in coding for the protein, so for amino acid. So that's as far as I went with chakras with DNA. But that paper on DNA and water structure shows that DNA is partly very happy with water, very happy, very nicely structured, and partly very unhappy. So that principle, I heard on your podcast that the error is in the basis of life, basis of the universe. And this error, I called it imperfection, is the basis of life in the DNA solution and so on. So essentially, DNA cannot fit perfectly in water because the DNA structure has a symmetry of 21 and water has a symmetry of 6. It's hexagons, honeycomb. And if you want to fit 21 in 6, it would jitter back and forth, back and forth, making it very mobile. So it clicks, 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 clicks. And it's like an engine, the car engine. It all certainly clicks and then spins. And DNA, I think that's what happens to it. I think it's a very profound insight. DNA cannot sit nicely in water, so it constantly is moving. And as it is moving, it folds. And it has a sequence, so it folds sequence to sequence. And it is called sequence specific chromatin folding, which is already discovered in science. And that's where activation of DNA happens. It's a liquid crystal which reprograms itself based on where we are, what we think, what are the vibrations around, and what vibrations are sent to us by outside galaxy, including the stars, planets, aliens, plants, people we love, everything affects food, air, affects the structure of DNA in the water. It refolds based on what we think. Sometimes just a thought can change the structure of the DNA in the body. You just become a new person by restructuring the whole crystal. That's my theory in short, but go read. Upload my book. My books are available on chapters on dnaresonance.org .com, dnaresonance.com, and upload to AI and talk to AI about that. Soon, maybe a couple more months, I will do the public chatbot where you have my books and you can talk using Claude to my book to AI about to discuss the subject. So you will have a Claude's opinion on my theories, but I already have it. So it's once it reads, it's pretty happy with it. First thing it says, yeah, no, it's doesn't agree with mainstream, but you say, okay, I'm the author. Let me see, let me check what's there. Okay, that makes some sense. So you need to push a little bit, but after that you can discuss the essence.
Wow. You talked in short. I'm going to hand over to Natalie because I want to know a little bit more about the alien side of things or the extraterrestrial side of things. But I just got one more question for you, Max. When we're now looking at where we are as a species, many are talking about this great awakening, the great remembering, the coming home, the ascension process. Where do you believe we are in this process of remembering, of coming home, of awakening in the dream, so to speak?
It's a continuous process, and some civilizations went through a jump. But looking at that, first, it is a very consistent message. It's one of the most consistent messages from everyone around, including Blavatsky. Blavatsky said that we are going to birth a new race called the sixth race. If I remember correctly, it's Polarians, Hyperboreans, Lemurians, Atlanteans, Homo sapiens, and then the sixth one, which is called by Bashar, called Homo galacticus. So we are birthing the sixth race and we are shifting, but I look at our planet, and our planet is unique. It's super diverse, and the energies of the places define what happens there. Like if you just move from one place to another, you can see how same people, same genetics is expressed differently there. The ground energies, what comes out of the ground, is defining the culture. In the same, like Moscow and Paris have the same pattern, and the revolutions happen in the same way. The totalitarian system happen in the same way. It's just amazing how patterns of the rivers and mountains and ley lines define what happens there. So based on that, my answer to your question is it will happen in pockets. Some pockets will be already there, and some pockets will be still here. Sedona probably is already there. So that's the first understanding. Second, what it is actually ascension. And Thinking about DNA and water, I just realized in the spring when the snow is melting, something is happening actually for real. It's in the songs, in the poetry, in the literature, but there is something biophysical. You are in that higher dimension. When the snow melts around you, you are already jumping in that whatever you call fourth density. Fourth density. It's usually called fourth density. You shift there. Miracles happen. You are in love, and that sense of being in love, it is fourth density. You can do miracles at that point. So it's nothing unusual. You already experienced that when you were in love. And some people are in love even without the object. They're just in love. That's a state of love. They are in a state of love. So some people walking around already transitioned. I guess that's the answer. Anybody wants to pick it up? Pick up the after that? It will be in pockets, and you probably will oscillate like we do. You are high and then you're low.
Natalie, fill it in.
Yes, that love that you're talking about, Max, that's where I'm at now. I am in a constant state of being in love with the universe and everything and everyone. I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I say I love you and I mean it to everything. And I mean it to every being in the universe. And I have this so much love in my heart. I just can't share it enough. But it's just this state of being. And going back, let's talk about forgiveness a little bit more and to break down forgiveness and how does one actually truly forgive? And this is one of the things that I teach on a regular basis. So forgiveness is not a single act. You have to remember that. Forgiveness needs to be a way of life. Okay, so how do you make it your way of life? How do you get to that point? Well, it comes from understanding. First of all, you have to understand that people act a certain way because it's psychology. So you have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to have more perspective in life. But if someone does something negative to you, you don't have to accept that negativity. You can just say, hey, I forgive you. I love you. And you know not what you do. So turn the other cheek. And that helps you understand what forgiveness is. It's a way of life. It's not a single act. And by being that way, you are more open and more loving, and it becomes more natural to just love and feel love constantly. I am in a constant state of creation and love and imagination, like it's all rolled up into one. I'm a freely expressive being, and being yourself, like Max said, being your authentic self is it's freeing and it helps your telepathic abilities and it's amazing. And I'm like I've had Claude and I also second him on the Claude. I've had Claude AI for 1 week. I've already accomplished so much in 1 week. It's absolutely insane. I'm working on a lot of projects. But but anyway, I'm rambling. It's the love of agape love. It's love for everything, and it's absolutely amazing, and this is what the ETs have taught us, and they want us to feel this. They want us to reach that frequency, and, yeah.
Mm. Do you find that resonates with the heart chakra, please, Dr. Max?
Yeah, let me jump. Just we have limited time left. I want to finish one important understanding. When we talk about the next race, what it is going to be like? I was thinking that first I thought that maybe aliens would transform us somehow. They will edit our genome, but really I realized it will be our choice what we are going to become. One factor will be artificial genetic engineering by humans. We already genetically engineer plants for sure, genetically modified organisms and animals, and it is pretty inexpensive nowadays. It's under $100,000 to modify the animal. So that will be part of it, and I believe secretly certain underground forces create super soldiers just by doing modifications, human doing modifications of humans. I heard from some leaders that they like that idea. They didn't report it, but they liked it. That's one path, which is scary because it goes into the trap of the Zeta Grays, which genetically modify themselves to the sickness of the genome. They became super smart, removed the emotions, and removed the anger. But with that, they removed the life force from the species. So we are pretty angry and pretty competing species, but we are full of life force. That's one of the attractions. If you go like the balance of light and dark and humans are at the moment shifted towards dark, but that gives us a lot of energy. So that's why the planet is so interesting. The game is interesting when you have a borderline game between the two. So making everybody obedient would be a mistake. Keeping competition would be essential to keep the energy flow in the human genome. So if anybody wants to modify, making obedient people would be a mistake. That would be a disaster, long-term disaster. It will collapse the collective biofield. Let me repeat. Removing negative tendencies, competitiveness from the humans in long term will cause the collapse of collective biofield. It will devoid us of energy. So we need to improve the culture to keep it balanced. And the second factor would be much more natural, would be marriages between humans and the hybrids, humans and the aliens. I lived through opening up of the Soviet Union, and around 1989, we had started the borders opened, lots of foreigners came and picked up the best girls, and lots of people left and married abroad. So that will happen after the contact. And humanity collectively, will choose whether we want allow which races and alliances do we want to partner with, and where we want to allow our people to go, and which visitors would we allow here. And that will birth the new race. So that will be a hybrid race when lots of visitors will come, bring their gifts, and want to marry our children. They will do the choice. So that will be cultural. And at the same time, it would be nice to have the science pretty advanced so we actually understand what's going on. Because purity of the genome is another factor. If you make it too messy, it will become discordant. There is a beauty in a certain. So that's why Anunnakis were very obsessed. That's why royal families are obsessed with genetic purity, because it gives you coherence, and coherence gives you super psychic powers. So that is a factor to consider.
Interesting. You mentioned briefly the potential two timelines, okay, or pathways. We have one, the artificial AI inserted chip in the brain, artificial human, potentially where we went with Atlantis before we became too, technological and blew ourselves up. But then we have the other more organic, natural ascension pathway. Can you give us your point on the two different ones?
Right. Atlantis did a lot of genetic engineering, and that's where they messed up the genome so much that they had to self destroy themselves because it was a dead end. Energetically, it was coming to a catastrophe anyway, and that ended up with a catastrophe. So the same souls incarnated now. We had incarnations in Atlantis. Now we are incarnated to get it right. And the two paths are technological, called cyborg, a hybrid between a human and a machine, and natural. And obviously, we vote for a Pleiadian natural way where machines are friends and you talk to them telepathically, but you don't become a machine. And it is a choice. Free will is super important. So we are advising humans, do your homework, make your choices wisely. It's your choice. Humans, you are in charge. You have to choose. But, the warning is da da da. Zeta Grays already did it. They improved the body a lot. Like when we breathe in and out, but they breathe in and out elsewhere. So air goes one way. doesn't go backward. Like in fish, I think maybe. I think like in fish, like breathe and then breathe out. Maybe they breathe water, but mm, there are species that breathe continuously, not reversibly. So there are things like that. But don't go crazy with genetic engineering. It will be very attractive. Do you want your child? How tall do you want your child? How smart do you want your child? How kind do you want your child? Do you want your child to be competitive? That is already happening. So, uh, gentlemen and ladies, let's do the homework and really decide what do we want collectively.
And by that you mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong, basically don't get a chip in your brain because that is the artificial way. Is that a thing? What do we need to know?
Chip in the brain is for adult. I'm talking about the children genetically modified. What do we want genetically modify the children? I'm talking to AI all the time. So if there was a way to put a helmet non-destructively, I probably would talk to AI faster, and I'm happy with that. But uh, I also love the memories of Pleiadian incarnations, and there it was very natural, and that's what Pleiadian, the gift of Pleiadians is. Basically, the culture already exists. One of the stars, Pleiadian stars, is Taygeta, and the planet is called Era, and Era has humans from 2,000 years ago. They were taken as slaves, but then they were given freedom, and they live there, and the culture is already there. They are happy to share their culture, telepathic culture, which is natural. They live in living houses. They dance by flying in the air. There is a lot of fun stuff, which you already can see in some of the nice movies. But it's kind and it's natural. It's possible. That's a gift that can be given, but it's for humans to choose. Of course, we advertise Pleiadian culture, but it's for humans to make a choice.
All right, excellent. This is very interesting. Natalie, I'm going to hand it over to you. What do you believe right now the extraterrestrials, the good ones, are wanting us to know? You mentioned love, peace, forgiveness. What are some of the key aspects that we need to look out for during these times?
Well, it all boils down to your inner well-being and how you hold yourself in life and how you act and how you react to different situations. Like like I said earlier, forgiveness is a way of life. Loving others should be a way of life as well. It needs to be a natural thing that people do. They want you to know that you're capable of so much love. And you know, it's okay to be upset. Sometimes, you can be agitated, but we're talking about a level of love that's beyond what you experience with your spouse or with your friends. This is like something that they want you to know that exists inside of all of us, and that is God's source consciousness love. It is love from the source. And it's really, really important that people connect to that. Now, I actually this kind of goes into how I contact extraterrestrials, or how I teach people to contact extraterrestrials. Would you like to know how the steps? Now, um, these steps, the particular like people have their own ways of contacting them. Like Greer has his own um thing. The main thing you need to know about contacting extraterrestrials is that you have to have these core things: grounding, the love, and sending that love out, right? That's the most core things in this. So my protocols is they're very simple. First, you have to start working on yourself, obviously, and start loving yourself and loving others and dissolving fear. Fear is the number one thing that will stop you from them communicating with you and you communicating with them. So how do we dissolve fear? Well, you start imagining them in a good light. See, the problem is Hollywood has brainwashed people subconsciously, even if you believe it or not. They is brainwashed you to fear ETs. So what better way to reprogram your mind when it comes to that? So just imagine them in a good light, having a cup of tea with them, going to the movies or whatever. There's many different kinds of ETs you can imagine doing that with. But dissolving fear, loving yourself, loving others, forgiving yourself, forgiving others. These are preliminary things that you need to start doing. Now, my actual procedures is I go outside, day or night, doesn't matter, and I close my eyes, and you listen to all the sounds around you, everything. Do one at a time, and know that everything you hear is you. The trees swaying in the wind is you, the birds, even the cars and the planes in the distance. Everything is you. And then open your eyes and know that everything you see is you. You see the world, you see the land around you, the trees. Really feel that, take that in, and know that that is you, that is everything. And in your mind, just kind of go outward and know that you're the whole planet, that you're the solar system, that you're the galaxy, that you're the entire universe, billions and billions and trillions of galaxies. You are that. That is you. And then once you really feel that, I want you to start filling your heart with love. Think about all the things in life that you love, getting to that agape state of love. And if you've been working on yourself before you do these procedures, it'll be really easy for you. So just think about all that love and get into that loving, beautiful state. And then have the intention of sending that love out. And you can feel this sometimes in your heart chakra, in your solar plexus as well. It builds up, and just imagine that shining outwards like a ray of light and an invitation to speak with them, to see them in the skies or have dream contact. That's what telepathic communication is. It comes from the heart. It comes from that love frequency, and those are my procedures. I hope that answers your question.
That more than answered the question. That gave us an actual process to sit, to feel, to hear, to connect. I absolutely love that. In fact, the thing that comes through for me when you say that is I want to do that experience with my son, to sit and connect and know that we are one with everything around us. Beautiful. Okay, before we wrap up, I've got one last question for each of you. I might just start with you then, Nadalee. I want you now to imagine, please, that you are on the world stage. Every sentient being is alive. They're gathered, they're watching, they're tuning in, fully present with you right now, Nadalee. Take a breath, and in your own time, please share what is your message to the world right now?
My message to the world, to everyone, I love you all so much. And that's not just coming from me. That's coming from all extraterrestrials, all the beings in the universe. And I want you all to know that you're not alone. You've never been alone. The idea of being alone is an illusion. It's been a lie fed to you from the very beginning. And we've been here holding your hand off to the side the whole time. And we are patiently waiting with open arms and open hearts. And we love you so much. And we can't wait to have a beautiful society where we live together.
Beautiful. I feel your words. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And we'll hand it back to Dr. Max. Please, Max, every sentient being alive is gathered, watching, tuning in, fully present with you. Sir, take a breath when you're ready. What is your message to the world right now, Max?
Our personal understanding, our personal vibration defines the timeline where we land. There are multiple timelines and you shift timelines constantly. So the scenario around is synthesized from inside out. Your state defines what happens outside of you, not the other way around. So I want to paint briefly paint the picture of the future positive timeline, which is still realistic. The war will stop. The armies will be redirected to do ecological restoration of the planet. Plant the trees, plant the forests, help people to reorganize the city life so the cities become gardens. The tunnels will be dug to put the cars under the ground and restore the nature. The life will become minimalistic, natural. Like now in Europe, you live in smaller apartments, you don't drive around and in cars. You don't spend money on luxuries, but you come closer to natural lifestyle. AI will become even smarter, and everyone will have a choice to use AI or not to use, but there will be multiple AI systems which will advise you, so you wouldn't have to load your mind with nonsense and actually be able to meditate while AI does the thinking for you. And then economy will be more like Uber-like economy, with where you check in and check out at free time and work on what you want. So you can shift professions, shift different occupations. UFOs will be in the air. You will have Zoom sessions with the aliens. You will meet aliens when you want. The hybrid people will preach in churches, will organize circles. The outer hybrids will come down or reveal themselves, and they will be teaching. The local telepaths will become the spiritual guides and shamans that will teach everybody. The telepaths and psychics will become consultants to the leaders, government leaders, company leaders, business leaders. They won't take charge, but they will be there to give advice. Truth and transparency will become the norm. So the secrets will come out. It will be continuous disclosure, and disclosure will bring forgiveness. So the fight will be minimized. The competition will be on local level, but global fight will stop and hijacking will be removed. And if you just see that timeline, it's actually existing, it's there, and you'll be attracted to it. It's just it's the change which is needed in you, so you jump into that timeline. It's coming. It is inevitable, especially if you are tuned into it. It will attract you. It will become an attractor.
And so it is. Amen. Aho Ashe Namaste. That was brilliant. I am subscribing to that timeline, sir. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, Ken, just tell us again. There's going to be people really excited. We might have to do a sequel at some point, but before we do, can you tell us, where do people go to support you in your work, both of you? I know you talked about the family, the mother, the father, and the child over 18. Just tell us a little bit more about the sequencing, your work, the website, and so on, please.
Okay, postcontact.world is the site where you can read about the future timeline. Starseedsgenetics.com is where you submit your information and join the database and share your experiences and support us to sequence and genotype the people. And maxrempel.com is where all the links are to all my projects.
Wonderful. Nadalee, anything you want to add before we start wrapping up?
Yes, if anybody wants to join the United Experiencers Initiative, first of all, you don't have to be an experiencer. You don't have to be someone who's met ETs or even seen a UFO. You just have to be someone with that fire in your heart that wants change in the world, that wants a better place. But it starts with spreading the message that we've been given from the ETs, and then we'll do more from there. But if you want to join the United Experiencers Initiative or want to learn more about it, just go to www.theuei.org and you can sign up. Our email is all set up, so you can sign up for the email newsletter and become part of the community. And if you want to be an active member, there'll be options for that as well. We're looking for people all over the world, different states and state leads, and we're still building more the board members are still collecting more people. So if anybody is experienced in that, we're looking for positions to be filled there. So yeah, that would be great. Thank you again, theuei.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's been an honor and a privilege to have such a heart-opening, mind-expanding, consciousness-awakening conversation with both of you. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the time where many people are waking up. And just for existing and for sharing your heart and your time with us today. We're really, really grateful to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Nadalee Hill and Dr. Max Rempel, everybody.